Hello Cougars, this is Mrs. Belatash here, and today I want to start talking about how the Earth and the Sun interact with each other, and then how the Moon and the Earth interact with each other. So I'm sitting in front of this big pizza pie. It's not really pizza pie. This represents the sun, right? And every single one of these little dots, that is the size of the Earth. It would take 100 Earths to cross the surface of the sun, the diameter of the sun, and 1,000,000 Earths to fit inside the sun, right? So I want us now focus a little bit on this model and look closely at how the sun, the Earth, and the Moon interact. So I want to show you something. Here's the Earth. Here's the sun. The sun gives us light and heat, and light from the sun reaches the Earth in 8.5 minutes. Pretty fast, but it still does take some time. So 8.5 minutes, the light leaves the sun and reaches the Earth. Now, the side that faces the sun has day, and the side that's in the shadow, you guys know, it's night, right? Night is just a big shadow. And we already talked about how does the Earth move around the sun. So it has two motions, right? So one, the Earth orbits the sun. It goes around or revolves around the sun. And the other thing the Earth does is that it rotates, it spins on its axis. So the Earth is doing those two things at the same time. It is spinning and revolving. It is rotating and revolving. Now, boys and girls, of course, this is not really the size of these planets, right? If the sun was this big, the Earth would be so tiny. This is just so you can see how they would react with each other, how they move with each other. But that's not the only thing that's happening, right? The Earth has a satellite, a natural satellite. The moon is called a natural satellite. So the moon also orbits the Earth. It revolves around the Earth. And it takes 28 days for the moon to orbit or revolve around the Earth. So there's a lot of things happening, aren't there? So there's the Earth orbiting around the sun, and there's the moon orbiting around the Earth. And all of these things are happening at the same time, over and over and over again. So I want to talk about time for just a minute. It takes 1 year for the Earth to orbit the sun. That's 365 days. It takes 1 day or 24 hours for the Earth to rotate one time. And it takes 1 month for the moon to orbit around the Earth. Let's do it again. Here we go. It takes 1 year for the Earth to orbit or revolve around the sun. It takes 1 day for the Earth to spin one time. It takes 1 month for the moon to revolve around the Earth. It's pretty cool learning about all this stuff about space. Hi, boys and girls. I want to read a little bit about the moon with you in this book called The Sun, Moon, and Stars. And it is written by Stephanie Turnbull, and it is designed by Zoe Ray. And we're going to read a little bit about the moon in it. The moon. The moon is a ball of rock that goes around and around the Earth. As the moon moves, the sun lights up different parts of it. This is why the moon seems to change its shape in the night sky. When the sun shines behind the moon, you can't see its light side. It's called new moon. Sometimes you can only see part of the moon. This is called a crescent moon. When the sun lights up the whole side of the moon, you can see a full moon. Other planets have moons too. Jupiter has more than 40 moons. Actually, they have discovered more moons than that in Jupiter. They found lots of moons around Jupiter. A rocky desert. The moon is a dry, dusty place. It has no air or water, so nothing lives there. The moon's surface is rocky and hilly. It is covered with giant holes called craters. Many of the moon's craters are so big that whole cities could fit inside them. There are lots of rocks drifting in space. Sometimes a rock crashes into the moon. The rock explodes and dust flies everywhere. It makes a deep, bowl-shaped crater. Moon missions. The moon is the only place in space where people have landed. This is how astronauts got there. 1. A rocket blasted off into space with astronauts inside. 2. Parts of the rocket fell away, leaving a small spacecraft. 3. A lunar module came out and landed on the moon. 4. Astronauts climbed down the ladder and onto the moon's surface. Astronauts explored the moon in an electric car. They collected rocks to bring back. This is a piece of a rock from the moon. Vanishing Trick. Sometimes the moon moves in front of the sun and blocks out the sun's light. This is called a solar eclipse. This black circle is the moon covering the sun. Gases from the sun glow around the edges. At the start of an eclipse, the sun looks like it has had a bite taken out of it because the moon is starting to cross in front of it. As the moon covers more of the sun, the sky gets darker and it feels colder. The moon covers the sun completely for just a short time. You see how it got dark? During an eclipse, many animals think it must be night, so they get ready to go to sleep. Okay, boys and girls, now that we have talked about how the moon and the earth and the sun all move together, we're going to write about it in our solar system book. So I'm going to open up my book, and I drew a picture of all three of those. So I have the sun. Oh, you know what? I should label the sun. I apologize for not labeling the sun. But I think we can see that it gives us light. And then here's the Earth. I should label the Earth. I did label Earth's orbit. And then I showed a little dot, which is the moon, and moon's orbit. And now, boys and girls, I'm going to write a little bit about the moon, the Earth, and the sun. And I wrote, the sun, the Earth, and the moon do a dance in the sky. The Earth spins every day. The Earth also revolves around the sun every year. It takes 365 days or 1 year for the Earth to orbit the sun. And the moon orbits the Earth. It takes 1 month for the moon to orbit the Earth one time. That is a lot of motion. So boys and girls, I want you to draw a picture of the sun, the Earth, and the moon. And I want you to write a few sentences about how the moon, the sun, and the Earth all move together.